Welcome. So yeah, let's talk about avatars and what they mean. And maybe the first thing to do is just kind of give you guys a bit of an intro about ourselves and where we come from. My name's Maura Welch. I'm the VP of Marketing at Together Labs. Together Labs, we're basically about connecting people in the metaverse. We have a property called IMVU, or IMVU. It's been around about 18 years. So if you think the metaverse is new, it's not so new. We've been doing 3D chat environments, fully user-generated community for 18 years. 1 million daily active users come to IMVU to trick out their avatars, buy virtual goods, chat, get to know each other, all of that. We also have another platform called With Me, which is now in open beta, built in the Unreal Engine. So again, what we're doing is building platforms for the long run that allow people to express themselves and meet socially. So that's us. Over to you.
All right, so my name is Stan. I'm with a company called Ready Player Me. For those who don't know, so I lead the content partnerships on that company. For those who don't know, Ready Player Me is a cross-game avatar platform. We are currently connected to more than 4,500 different developers building or having live games, apps, metaverses, virtual worlds, you name it. And what we actually solve is the problem of a singular identity for the user who needs to create an avatar every time they go to a different game, right? So with us, you create one Ready Player Me avatar and you can use it persistently across all of those different games and apps that we're connected to. Yep. We've been around for like just over 2 years, and yeah, super excited to be here.
Amazing avatars.
Hi, my name is John Caldwell. I work with Wave Financial, so I'm investing into like seed round startups within the metaverse and NFT sort of world. Also run an NFT fund where I'm actually going and buying NFTs. So my perspective on this space is one of a very jaded person. I see a lot of really bad products within the metaverse, and it's just this hype. But that being said, your two products, and I promise this is not a shill, I love IMView, I love Ready Player Me. They're both like amazing products, so I'm really happy to talk to you guys about that. And then in the fashion space, I've advised on some projects. The biggest one, I think, was this modeling agency called Photogenics. They were launching their metaverse strategy, and I helped them with that. We ended up using sort of an avatar artist named Ninessence, and created their metaverse division. So it's the first fully sort of functional, bookable metaverse division for a major modeling agency.
That's really interesting. I bet models are really... We have models that earn money on IMView just modeling avatar fashion for avatar fashion creators. So, you know, I think that these models are out there, and I think they're really strong. And one of the things that I think all of us have all created avatars, and as you said, if we did Ready Player Me, we could just have one avatar to rule them all. But probably we're all going to be making a lot of avatars, and one of the things that maybe we can talk a little bit about is why do players in these social or gaming worlds care so much about their avatars? I'll start a little bit, and then maybe we go down the line, because I think that I've seen amazing things happen. I've seen people who come in and can infinitely customize their avatar and want to actually be an animal, or want to actually be LGBTQ person. They can't do that in real life. Like, it's life-changing stuff that happens with avatars, but it's also like, you know, you also see people that just really, really want to be themselves and represent their own self, right? Who they authentically are. So I think avatars are really powerful, and it plays into how you socialize in a game and how you play against others. So go for it.
Yeah, so the way we think about them is that the avatar is basically an extension of your identity, your personality. So what are the things that help you express yourself in the physical world? It's the way, you know, your hair looks, like what you're wearing, the the sports team that you're a fan of, so you would wear a jersey, or you like a certain brand, so you would put the sneakers on, and all of those, small things that we don't really think about so much in the physical world because they're kind of, part of our dailyhood. But in the in the virtual world, that is a whole new thing where if your identity is projected in that virtual space because you spend a lot of time there, then if you have the possibility, you absolutely want to bring all of those things that help you express yourself as a person into that domain, and then the domain itself gives you the possibility to go out there and express beyond anything that's possible in the physical world. To your point, animal avatars, wild makeup, wild outfits, like the thing we did with, I don't know if I can, anyway, with, so they had an outfit with flying wings and stuff, and things you wouldn't probably wear. In your
Shoes
daily
that are on fire. We did that with shoes 53045. Those are really hard to wear in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, like for the Vogue event, we had this outfit with the big wings. Like, you wouldn't probably be able to walk through here.
That's right.
But for a virtual event, amazing.
It totally works.
Yep.
Yeah, this concept of digital identity is really fascinating. It almost becomes like a spiritual or like a human question of who do you identify with? Is it the clothes you wear? Is it the color of your hair? Is it, from a broader sense, your nationality, where you grew up, these communities you're involved with? And what I think is really great, and what COVID and lockdown really showed us, was that you still can reach other humans and be part of these communities without ever leaving your home. So you're connecting to other groups of people just through shared interests, let's say on Instagram or Twitter, or Clubhouse was a big thing. And then gaming, of course. I mean, my solution during COVID was like, oh, let's get back into World of Warcraft because I want to go jump around the capital city and interact with friends and make friends. And that was like a great way for me to sort of dip my toes back into this metaverse identity. And then all the NFT stuff and metaverse stuff started kind of coming to more of a maturity after that. We've seen it in Web 2 forever, this concept of like ownership. I think is it Fortnite or CSGO? Like recently there was like a really big sale of something. Do you guys know? It was like a $500,000 sale of like a gun or like a shader for your gun. Obviously we've seen NFT sales that are far beyond that. I think that's on account of the unit bias of like Ethereum versus the US dollar. Spending 50 ETH is kind of like, if you have a bunch of ETH, not a big deal compared to like $200,000 at the peak. But we all deal with this, whether we know it or not. We are in this sort of metaverse digital identity space already. How much of my identity do you all know about me just based off my Instagram, what I'm choosing to share on my Instagram, how I'm curating the way I look to the outside world. And so it makes perfect sense to me that especially younger generations will embrace this and approach it from a sense of like play and expression more than anything else. And that's what I think is so fun about this space.
Yeah, and I think ownership there's so many layers to that, right? We've been looking for an ownership model in the digital space ever since we've had digital spaces, because in the real world, it's an ownership model. Everybody owns their own clothes, they own their own cars, they own their own jobs and path and everything that you're on. But in the digital space, it's been sort of infinitely copyable. And so what blockchain has really done for us, I think, is really give us a model that we can build on. Because ownership is key. Like if I've created something, I should be able to own it, give it to the world, get royalties. Okay, the blockchain can allow that. I also think it just really democratizes access to a lot of things. So that's the other thing I think we should touch on is like, it allows us to have ownership models. So I can buy things from my avatar, I can go into these worlds. And of course, there's utility when you're in these worlds. Like the worlds that we live in, there's utility because you have an avatar and you're in a game and you're doing something. There's a lot of projects that we see out there that don't have utility because they're like a technology in search of an application. Maybe we can even just touch on that before I move on to democratization, because I think it's key. I think it's one of the things that's been wrong with this whole industry has been this idea that a product cannot have utility and somehow be okay. I don't know how that works.
Me neither. So I absolutely agree. So to us, blockchain represents an amazing solution to proof of anything. Mm-hmm. So proof of ownership, proof of presence, right. Proof of membership, all of those different use cases, amazing for blockchains. Obviously, not everything needs to be on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. Like, not everything needed to be on the internet, back with the dot-com bubble. But yeah, so when it comes to ownership, what we're trying to enable on our end is basically take this ownership to different places. And again, taking a concept that we're so used to from the physical world. Yeah. I came in with these sneakers, and it's not something special for anyone. No, I just own them. Mm-hmm. So unless there is like a dress code at the door, which I would have agreed to coming in here, so I would be wearing different shoes, then I'm free to come with my shoes. And same thing across the board, like creating a new avatar in every game. That's like, you need to leave, whenever you're leaving the grocery store to go to the, pharmacy, you gotta leave your passport and clothes at the door and then get new ones in the next place. If that was the physical world, would go crazy. But somehow we landed in a place in the virtual world where that's the current normal.
It's because it's so damn hard to build these spaces.
It is, and that's what, again, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of just vision to try and move from A to B.
Yeah, agreed.
Regarding democratization of like your identity and self-expression, I will just convey. So I did a Ready Player Me avatar a few weeks ago because I had to do spatial. So I had to do something in spatial, and the process is you take a photo and it like auto generates something for you, and then you can play around with the outfit, the hair. I had like blonde hair at the time, and I was like, oh, let's try purple pink hair, and it took 2 seconds. I just click a button, go, oh, that's cool. Compare that to IRL. You have to sit in a fucking chair and burn your scalp for like 6 hours with bleach, and then it costs a lot of money. It's like hundreds of dollars. You spent your whole day there, and then like 3 weeks later, you have to go back and like touch it up and do it again. So yeah, being able to just click on stuff is it's much more affordable. It's more sort of playful. You can reverse it if you don't like it.
Totally agree. Like, I think, yeah.
You can reverse as well.
I also think it's exposing, if we're thinking about fashion, it's exposing huge numbers of people to the ability to be able to have fashion in their lives, right? Not everybody can afford to go out and look as cool as some of the people I've seen around here. But in the metaverse, in these spaces, in these digital spaces, you can actually afford to buy those kinds of things and at least have that as your digital identity. So I think that democratization is super powerful. And super powerful on top of that, we have like 200,000 creators that create for the InView platform, right? That's 200,000 people that are earning money for the work that they do. Every single day, we pay out almost $1 million a month to these people. So what I would say is, this is the future, right? This is where we're heading, and I think we're building it, we're getting there. It's not easy to build, but it's well worth it, because I think that's the kind of future look that we want to have on this whole thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So when we think about content creation on Ready Player Me, so our North Star is a place where you can be a small creator and make a living out of the platform. Mm-hmm. And we have seen the emergence of artists who are looking to capitalize on the open metaverse, on Web3, blockchain, whatever you want to call it. We're currently just bottlenecked by our ability to build tools fast enough, which means we are kind of forced to work more with big brands because that gives us more ability to elevate the entire space. Like the other day when we launched our partnership with L'Oreal Group, it got a lot of press coverage.
Yep.
The amount of effort it took us would be the same between the L'Oreal Group partnership and an individual creator. So that's an interesting point today. But some time down the road, it will be all about the individual creator. It will be all about communities, all about leveraging that and allowing them to take their creations into the open metaverse.
Also, I think that like the level of AI getting integrated into that process is going to be really interesting. If people have used DALL-E 2 or Stable Diffusion this past year, I mean, you can say like, you know, a penguin on blue carpet in an impressionist style, in a futurist style, in a pop art style. And so that ability to translate to different like ecosystems or aesthetics, I think AI will be able to do that with like wearables or identity. So they'll take your avatar and people will be able to translate that into different worlds. And I think that then that takes a lot of the load off of humans who have to go in and be like, oh, okay, let's translate these shoes to these 15 different leading metaverses or your identity or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're funding some of these companies because like it takes a lot of funding to build that kind of AI. It takes a lot to build 3D spaces. And I just think, I really liked what you said about, Stan, about like it's the same amount of effort for L'Oreal as it is for anyone else, right? But I think if we're designing for everyone else, if we're designing for that first creator, I think that's what we need to keep to. Like we just, on InView, integrated NFTs into our ecosystem, right? We're selling virtual goods for all these years. Now we integrate NFTs because of the ownership model, because we know it's good for our creators, because we know that they'll have more options for ownership and also for resale. And we did that for that reason because we knew it was good for that creator. But you're right, we're also looking for opportunities to work with larger brands because that's really important for getting our stuff off the ground. But really, it's all for the people.
It also adds a lot of just natural reach.
Yeah.
Because when someone like L'Oreal comes in, they don't just bring in some, hairstyles or makeup looks or something like that. They go out there and they, advocate for the space.
Yeah.
And they give it a lot of validation in front of all of the other creators. We're like, hey, this is the biggest beauty company in the world. Yep. And we chose to be here. Anyone in their right mind knows that they don't make random decisions. Mm-hmm. So there must be something there. Yep. So everyone else in the industry starts scratching their head, and it becomes a cascade. Like, right. In the next one, and the next one. And this elevates the entire space.
The entire space, I agree. Yeah. Anything to add to that? Okay. Big brands have it easier.
I mean, yeah.
They do.
They do.
They do. I would love to hear from you guys what you think are some of the most interesting things that you've seen over the last year. Like, what are things that are examples of what you saw that and you're like, okay, that feels like the future. That feels like where we should be heading.
I mean, specifically within like metaverse.
Yeah. Or avatars.
Yeah. Well, I really like a company called DressX. They do augmented reality and virtual reality wearables. So there's an app and you can download wearables and then preview it on yourself. And then what they're doing here in Miami too is like if you own their wearable hat, then that's part of a token gated event that you can go to here. Yeah, I love the ability to own this stuff and then to just like immediately see it. I think that's really important. Both of your companies do that as well, where it's not like a thing that you have to put any imagination behind, really. Like you can just see it right there and you can play with it. And I think that's really important because there's so many people that are promising the world. I mean, like Meta or Facebook is doing that. They're promising this whole idea, but it's really been like, what is that promise? What is that dream besides the movie Ready Player One, which was a long time ago now, and like that's a great vision to build towards, I suppose, but they're not really delivering much. So I like seeing things that you can actually see and share with your friends and play with.
I actually know the guys at DressX, so I agree. Friends, partners. I would differ a little bit on the Ready Player One vision because that's a dystopian movie, and I don't think we're moving in that direction, or at least I wouldn't like us to land there. One of the things that get me excited about what I've seen lately is the convergence of virtual and physical. We've worked with multiple creators who are doing so-called phygital collections. So you have physical wearables, you have virtual wearables, and where some brands get it wrong, for example, is that they make digital twins, and they're missing the point. It doesn't need to be the same. You can go fully out there with your virtual, and then you can just decouple them a little bit and allow the virtual to be tradable.
Right.
You don't need the physical outfit anymore, or you can have multiple utilities, multiple virtuals. So there is a whole economy that is gradually spinning up from that. And it all starts from physical, which is something we understand, although it doesn't have to be honest, and we can talk about that as well. But it is this convergence of the two worlds that's maybe going to lead to mass adoption, which is currently missing.
I totally agree, and I think that's that when we can unlock things in the virtual world, that's cool. Like we do things where you buy this NFT or you buy this item, and that unlocks the ability to go in a special room or have a special experience. Or if it's a game, it unlocks the ability to kill your enemies even faster, or whatever those things are. I think that's great, but I do think it really gets to be super interesting when you cross over into the other side. We did a fashion show that Vogue on InView that Vogue called the First Runway Show. It was in 2021. And we worked with Kalina Strada, and they were working on these sort of anamorph dresses at the time. And we were like, okay, that's cool. Like, let's try some of that in the digital space. We got to make the animal dresses do some wild stuff on InView, and it was really cool. And then a few weeks later, the coolest part of the whole thing was it was Met Gala, and that same a version of that dress walked down in the real world, down those stairs. And that was like where I got to the point where I was like, okay, we need to have that kind of experience more. We need trends to be starting on inside of these digital spaces and move out into the real world, and we need real world stuff coming back in. But it's very much like people think it's different than real life, all of this digital space stuff, all this metaverse stuff. It's totally not different. It's just the digital layer of your life. That's what it is. Anyway, did I get on a soapbox about that or what? But maybe you guys agree with me. I don't know.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay.
Couldn't agree more, yeah. And this is one of the things that's been missing, actually, the ease of use.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yep, so I'm a rant a little bit.
Yeah, do it.
But
Do it.
like I look around the conference and I feel kind of relieved that I don't hear things like WAGMI and normies and all of that stupid jargon. It's kind of out the window now, thankfully, and it needs to be dropped further, where none of those words, they were never funny. They were cool for a while, but if this thing is to move forward into mass adoption, it needs to be accessible, and we need to stop talking about complicated technologies and all of that and start talking about experiences. And my benchmark, and this is probably going to sound silly to some, is actually my mom. So she is in her 60s, and she's doing very well to go out there and shop something online. That is an accessible experience. I start showing her MetaMask. Oh, you gotta do this and this to switch from Polygon to Ethereum, but then you gotta, do the other thing and connect your. She'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
No.
So this is what we all need to solve. Like, it needs to be easy. It needs to be accessible. Otherwise, it's gonna be niche.
It won't scale. Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, another area that I'm really interested with this stuff is like sustainability. It's a topic I've worked on or I'm passionate about, I helped to pass legislation in Los Angeles to ban the sale of fur. I'm a big animal rights advocate. I don't believe in killing animals for fashion or for anything, if possible. And so, if you look at the fashion world, not only with horrible conditions for animals for fur farms or leather, but then also just the amount of waste that happens within the fashion industry is pretty incredible and avoidable, really, too. But with especially post Ethereum merge, all these NFTs, all this technology on chain is now, really, really sustainable, and basically fits into like an ESG type of investment thesis, which is like your companies do want to invest in products that are not horrible for the environment. Some companies even have mandates to do so, and so that's one thing I'm very bullish about, like long term, is now NFT wearables or avatars or whatever are green, basically, post merge. And so it's an interesting thing to see that, like, all the hype and WGMI and whatever has now turned to just sort of like toxic infighting within the NFT world. It's not really surprising, but the most consequential event of the past year was like this one little thing that just happened in the middle of the night where Ethereum switched from proof of work to proof of stake, and there was like some pandas in ASCII art on the terminal that was just like, all right, we're now 99.9% greener, and it's a huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely huge. So I think as much as the digital space is like the physical space, and we're living our lives in both, there's a larger impact to our physical thing. I think about that when you walk into a mall and you see just the layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we all need to carry around. So it's nice that some of it can be digital, and more our lives are digital. So
yeah, when you think about it, where do we spend the majority of our days, really?
100%.
Like, it's in front of a screen, you're doing something online, you're doing something in a virtual space, and it's been the saying that the next iteration of the internet is actually going to be much more immersive. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be like, the internet, but built by video game designers and creators. Mm-hmm. So we're probably going to spend even more time. So again, expression, clothing, all of those things. And that's why it makes so much sense for fashion, because no one's going to blame a brand that, their last year's virtual collection landed up in a landfill in Africa.
That's right. Yeah, agreed. And I think too, like, the kinds of fashion opportunities ahead that really get me excited are around discovering new talent that didn't ever get a chance to get out there to begin with. So I love that we're working with L'Oreal and all these other brands and all of that stuff, but really fundamentally, I think we're going to start, if we're going to maybe do predictions as a last round, my prediction is we'll start to see breakout fashion designers and other kinds of 3D designers that would never, ever have been given the time of day to get out there. And that's what gets me excited every day to get up and work on these platforms.
We will also see, adding on to that, the fans and supporters of these early designers, like the early fans, will be incentivized to be early fans and early adopters, because NFTs sort of let you do that. Right now, like, let's look at Lil Michaela or whatever. She's like an avatar, not a real person, but she's like an avatar influencer with millions of followers on Instagram. If I was like the third follower to her, it wouldn't mean anything to me, except I could sort of be like a hipster meme and be like, oh, I followed her when she only had 3 followers. And everyone would be like, shut up, no one cares. But if I had an NFT or something and was an early supporter, that will actually be worth something later. And I do think we saw that on like a hyper crazy timeline this last year with like Bored Apes or CryptoPunks a few years before that, where you're an early adopter, it's like, $20 to $100, and then all of a sudden they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I think we'll see that on a more tame scale with like creators, where I see a creator I really like and I get their Genesis NFT or something. I'm basically betting on that person that they're going to be successful, and I get to wear their wearable. I get to express myself, and then if they become successful, I can sell it. There's no wear and tear. There's this instant hyper liquid market across the entire world that without any trust or counterparty risk, you just sell it to somebody and it's instantly sold to them. I mean, that's the beauty of NFTs, is the ability to transact like that. So I definitely see that happening. And then, you know, based off of what we're seeing with like Polygon onboarding a lot of, I don't know, bigger players like Starbucks or Reddit. I think a few other people I can't think of right now, or other layer 2s, or, you know, things like that. There won't be gas fees. So, you know, people really will be getting like truly free NFTs to start with something, to be an early adopter. And just the fact that you are paying attention, right, you're rewarded. And then that may end up being worth $100, $1,000, and be life-changing money for somebody. And that will be many people's first exposure to blockchain and NFTs, is like coming up on, you know, some gains. And that is so much better than the risk associated with sort of the JPEG casino that we've been playing this last year, which is like, oh, maybe I'll buy a Bored Ape right now at $500,000. Now you're,
or even before that, the sort of attention economy and social media, right, where we're all the product and we get sold by Facebook to the highest bidder, click, 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 and we're not at all connected anymore, like all of that stuff. I'm glad that I'm hoping we're evolving past that. And I like the fact, maybe this is a good place to end, I don't know how we are for time. I like the fact that an avatar, when you're in a game or you're in a social experience with an avatar, I'm behind the avatar, you're behind your avatar. It's two people actually connecting with each other. And that's really powerful when you think about social media, right? Very different. Let's stick with the real stuff. Let's stick with actually being humans out there and loving fashion. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.